welcome to our first episode of our Superintendent Sit Down for the 24-25 school year. We're excited to be here. As you may notice, I am not in costume this go around. We enjoyed having our pre-Kers in the office a couple weeks ago for our second annual Halloween trick-or-treat field trip. Even Dr. White participated, and Mr. Williams will help me flash on the screen so you all can enjoy. He was our very own Candy King from Candyland. All the kids enjoyed seeing that. As you can see, he had the crown made of candy and everything. It was a fun day for everyone, but we're back to normal clothes today. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone. Before we get started, Dr. White, can you just talk about all the great things going on in Floyd County Schools? Great start to the school year, closing in on the holidays, all the updates.
Yes, it has been a great start to the school year. Wonderful things going on in the Floyd County school system, of course. The CCA is the CCA of the year in the state of Georgia for the second time, which is unprecedented. No one has ever done that. So our CCA for the second time is the CCA in the state of Georgia. It got the state awards. Very proud of the CCA, very proud of our school system and what's going on. Our milestone testing results are coming back. Great information. We had a great SAT score, ACT score, all these things. It's just looking better every day about what's going on in our school system. Our teachers, our students, our administrators, everyone's working together for the benefit of our students. And I just really appreciate what they do on a daily basis. So things are going in the right direction. And I'd like to thank all the employees for what they do every day for our students.
It's really been a great start. You know, we're all coming together, collaborating in different ways. We're all focusing on that one vision together. Speaking of our test scores, Dr. White, they are really great. All kudos to our teachers, our students, our administrators, and you and our leadership for putting in the right supports in place. And I know you say a lot. You're working on the celebration piece, but you're doing a really great job, and we appreciate the celebration incentives that you've given to our students and our teachers and our schools. You provided that for us, so thank you for that, and thank you all for all the work you have done so far. We're going to get right into it. We have a special guest, my friend and coworker, Tanya Welchel. She offered some advice yesterday, and once we finished, I was like, hey, can you join the podcast and share that exact same thing? Because I think teachers, especially in the elementary world, really needs to hear that, because I can't answer it. Honestly, I'm not in the weeds every day. But Ms. Welchel is a lot, working one-on-one with our principals and our teachers. There's a lot of new changes coming that are implemented from the state with benchmark, with the new curriculum, with the new standards, all great stuff, but it can be a little overwhelming, and there's a lot of trainings that go into that. Can you just talk about where we are, remind them where it came from, and what our goal is with that?
Right. Yes, I'd be glad to. Basically, what's happened is our state legislature has put in the House bill for literacy, which has lots of components. And the thing is that these components also change. So that you think that we're doing it right one way, and then you get more guidance and we're doing it, then we've got to change something. So remember, with this came this year, next year comes brand new standards for ELA. We also this year now have the dyslexia law that has come into place with this House bill. We also have the fact that we have to train all of our teachers, K-3, that teach any kind of ELA. They have got to have the science of reading training. We also had to adopt a curriculum that met the science of reading rigor and was approved by the state. So you have all of these things that came at one time. So for the ELA world, it's kind of like we've taken a big breath and haven't been able to release yet. So it is overwhelming, and it is a lot. And we as the leadership of the school system, we as principals, we know this, and we know that our teachers are working hard and that they are overwhelmed, and we understand that. The good thing is, though, as this year goes, we get to breathe a little bit because we will have done the heavy work. We will have done the heavy lift. What does that mean? That means right now we've got 120 teachers in letters training, which satisfies the part of the law where we have to have science of reading training for our K-3 teachers. That's 120 teachers. One of the questions was, why don't we do these on days that are not planning days, because our teachers want to be in the schools? Well, the problem with that is if we don't do it on a planning day, that's 120 positions, that's 120 subs. And at this time, I don't know that we have 120 subs in the whole system.
Right.
So we don't have the ability to pull 120 subs into our buildings. The other thing is with that, those subs cost roughly $100 a day. So that's 120 times 100. Dr. White, you're the good math person. What's the math on that one?
Putting you on the spot.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I didn't bring my
You didn't bring your
phone with
cal-
me, so I can't give you that answer right now.
A lot.
A lot.
A lot. That was a good answer. That was a good one.
A lot.
So anyway, you're talking a lot of money that we could be taking and putting back in other supports that we want to keep in place in our school system. So that is money that if we don't spend on subs on a planning, and we do these on a planning day, that's money that goes to supports that we get to continue in our school system. The other thing too is we were talking about why doesn't the state reimburse us for those? That's professional learning. Why doesn't the state do that? When we have days that we are given from we get our sick days, we get our personal days, we get I think it's 1.25 days per month. The state doesn't pay for those days. They give you one of those days. They give us $100 for every employee, and that's it. So once you go past your 1 day out, the system funds that. So we also have to be good stewards of that money, because that is funded at our system level. So every time we use a substitute, the system is paying for that. The state is not paying for that. Even though they give you the days, they don't give the system the money to pay for it. So that's also another aspect. Then we're also looking at the calendar. I don't know if you know this, but we've been doing this now. I think this is year 31 for me. We have always, with the exception of just a few years, teachers have worked 190 days and students have gone to school 180 days. That's how it's been. There were exceptions during furlough years and those kinds of things, but there have been some exceptions to that. But we've been back to a 180-day calendar for a while. Last year, Dr. White implemented 4 extra planning days. And that was a group of people brought that to him, the teacher advisory. They brought that to him and said, we want more planning days. And he granted that wish for us. And we also knew that all of this was coming, that all this training was coming, and that we were going to have to do some things. So with that, we now do 176 kid days and 194 teacher days.
190.
Well, we had 190,
Yes.
but 4 of those now. But we took 4 off
Correct.
sorry, I had that wrong. We took 4 off the student days. So we are now using those days for professional learning that we wouldn't have had anyway.
Right.
So I want everyone to understand that we're not taking your 10 planning days. We are using the 4 additional days that Dr. White gave us in order to make sure we're keeping teachers in the classroom so that we are doing our high quality instruction, and we're teaching our new ELA curriculum with fidelity and to the very best of our abilities, and we're not pulling teachers out of the classroom to do that.
Thank you. And from a parent's perspective, as a mom of a kindergartner, the new benchmark curriculum is very impressive. I mean, she comes home all the time showing me what she's learning, and kudos to all of you, kindergarten teachers, first grade, second, all the elementary teachers and parapros for implementing that. And it is a change, and I understand that takes some time to get used to, but through these trainings and through implementing that, we'll get there. There was a great question asked, and Mr. Brock answered it really well yesterday about, can we look at implementing the assessments into our weekly curriculum maps? And he said, absolutely. Just with change, it's trial and error a lot of times, and that's what we're doing here. Is that correct?
That is correct. Just remember that with any new curriculum, there's going to be ebbs and flows, and there's going to be changes that we make. Everything's new, and then we're going to add new standards next year, and we're adding. And the good thing about this, though, too, is the new benchmark curriculum is also preparing us for the new milestones that's coming out. So we're also going to be ahead of the game for number one, how the standards are going to roll out, and number two, how milestones is going to roll out. So we're going to be ahead of the game. So like I said, right now we've had to take a deep breath and we haven't been able to feel like we can exhale, but that time's coming and it's going to get better.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Velchel, and thank you for all for hanging in there and implementing this great opportunity for our students as we navigate the new strategies and things put in place by the state. You're doing a great job. You have support and wonderful support in Ms. Velchel and many others, so reach out. Thank you, Ms. Velchel.
All right, and Dr. White, we cannot disappoint Mrs. White. We have to know what 120 times that $100. I think it's going to be 12,000.
12,000.
Okay.
You know, if I did that right. If I did that right. So, all right. We don't want to disappoint her with our math
I
skills.
was hoping maybe she won't watch the podcast.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We will get back to our questions that were submitted by our teachers. Most of these, Dr. White, we had a great conversation yesterday
Yes,
with our
we
Teachers
did.
of the
We
Year.
sure did.
Outstanding group. I love getting that group together and the feedback they gave. I mean, lots of laughs, lots of questions asked. It was a really great meeting. Most of these can be answered kind of in rapid fire style. They're very straight to the point, but there's a couple that I'll put kind of towards the end that we'll elaborate a little bit more on and give
Sure.
some more explanation because it can kind of be a little confusing, one of the topics. So we've already talked a little bit about incentives that we've done with milestones and celebrations, and you implemented a new attendance incentive last year that came
Yes.
straight from the teacher advisory, their suggestion. And it's simply that. It's simply an incentive,
Yes,
similar
it is.
to how we give our students for attendance when it comes to exams and different things. If you have perfect attendance, you're done before Memorial Day. And
Yes.
obviously, if you know that's going to impact you, plan for that so you can be done. And, you know, high school students are in and out of the building. Use that time, pack up if you need to. By any means does this mean come to work with a fever, spreading germs.
No.
If you're sick, you're sick. As a mom, if I was a teacher, I would know this possibly wouldn't apply to me. And I understand that. It's not going to affect me. It's not going to hurt me. But it's something as my kids get older that I can look forward to building in and putting in my pocket. So I'm very appreciative of that. But it's simply an incentive. Do not stress or worry. If it's not going to be you, aim for that for next year.
Yes, that's the way I would see it, and I hope everybody gets it. It would be great if we could do that for everybody.
Right.
But as you mentioned, sometimes as a parent, your children are sick, or you may have older parents that you need
Right.
to help take care of. We understand all that, but it is a incentive, and that's it. That's what it is.
Right, and it's for the end of the year, be done with the Memorial Day. It's hard to really pick and choose planning days during the year, to Ms. Welchel's point, with all the trainings and conferences that go on. So that's how it's set up for now, and we
Yes.
appreciate that. Speaking of incentives, we're always, Dr. White, you are in every meeting, you're always looking for different ways we can recognize our teachers and give them rewards, and our staff, and we appreciate that. We are constantly looking at ways to doing that. And this question was actually asked of me back when we were out doing the communications training, and we researched this, and it was about daycare options in our
Yes.
system. We would love that. As a parent of one in daycare now, that would be a great perk. And unfortunately, we've researched it. We've called the few school systems in the state and asked questions. And it's important to know that these school systems are mostly city schools.
Yes.
They have one location, so the convenience aspect is there for them. For us, the convenience part would really be thrown out the window because we have 5 areas that we go back and forth to. But also what's important to understand, when we researched this, I did call several of them. Marnay Wilson spoke up yesterday. She was part of a system that had this before, but has since removed it because it was so cost effective. They would go in the hole. She said the best year they went in a hole $100,000 for the school system.
Yes.
We would have to find a building for that, potties and restrooms for little ones, playground equipment, separate rooms, facilities, pay parapros and their insurance. We would have to have a director. The conversation got brought up, maybe we can do it through the CCA in that pathway. And Ms. Brock was in there and spoke up and said, we actually only do K through 12 in our pathways. So there's a lot of things that go into that. And though that's something that would be amazing, and even for me, unfortunately, it's just not cost effective right now, but we can continue to explore that avenue.
Yes.
The next question dealt with facilities. And Dr. White, the robots came up. It was a great question. And for those that don't know, for whatever reason, when we were just simply talking about the robots being an extra tool and an extra resource for those custodians that we do have, he broke the record for comments and likes on Rome News Tribune. We celebrated with a cake, which was my favorite. But on a serious note, the question was about the night crew. I think Mr. Worsham said that is still an option should schools need it if they're limited with custodians. It's really hard to find people to work right now.
Yes, we are struggling to find people to clean our schools, and we do use a contract group that can come in after school and then work inside the schools, and they move around based on the need in our school system. So those people that we use, that they do come in after hours, and then if there's issues with what they're doing, if your room wasn't cleaned or whatever it might be, then we need to let the head custodian know the next morning or let the principal know, and then we'll research and see what's going on.
Yeah, so we have that as an extra tool because it was brought up yesterday. You know, one of our teachers said, we appreciate you guys looking into things like that because they're having to sweep, and as a teacher, I was sweeping as well. It's just hard to find dedicated workers, and we appreciate the extra effort, but we're hoping these initiatives with the robots that are in place slowly but surely. One is at Coosa High School now, going great, sweeping and mopping, allowing the custodian that is there to empty the trash cans and do the classroom work. So additional tools, and like Dr. White mentioned, if the night crew does have to come in and you start noticing things that are not being cleaned or moved out of the way, it's very important to let your head custodian or your principal know.
Yes, let me mention one other thing on the robotic cleaning machines. We are now implementing that same program. We started with Coosa. We're now at Pepperell High, and so those machines are in place now, and we're looking at moving around the county. The next place that we would go would be Armurchie High and then Model High. And then the reason for that is our high schools are our biggest facilities. So we're looking at using them there. There is a potential to use them in other schools at a later date. So this is kind of an implementation stage. We want to see how they work. So far it's been good, but we want to continue to evaluate that. And as you said, it's not to eliminate any positions. It's actually to help our custodians so they are able to do other things inside the school.
Right. Thank you. The next facilities question was about thermostats, and Mr. Worsham gave a great answer on that. They monitor all thermostats based off Georgia Power's recommendation between 70, I believe he said 72 degrees.
Yes.
And there is a way he offered his assistance to, if it's not working properly, to work on that. If you have questions with your thermostat, let him know. But ultimately, it's set up that way because of the power usage and ultimately saving money through power source, but it should not go over that set range. He said he acknowledges that there are some units broken and they're working on that, and they're looking at replacing several as well in the near future. So if you have immediate concerns, he's genuine with this, please let Mr. John Worsham know, but that should be at a comfortable area based off Georgia Power's recommendations.
Exactly. Right.
Miss Deborah Williams, who's over our nutrition, gave great examples and input yesterday with the questions asked for her. So one of the questions asked was, why do we not have free breakfast and lunch for all students? And this question in particular said that they felt like their school was at least 70% free and reduced students. So though you might feel that way, they are not deemed that way unless they fill out free and reduced lunch forms. So you may feel as if your school has that need, but unfortunately the way the system's set up from the state, they have to fill out that form to be qualified for that.
Yes.
So there may be a time right now if students are not filling out this free and reduced lunch form, maybe only 20% of your students are actually free and reduced because of the forms being filled out.
That could be. It very well could be.
Going back to the free lunch for everyone, there's a program called CEP, and systems like Rome City have this program. I believe we did in the past, and that is a program for free, or grant rather, for free lunches for all. And again, we have to qualify for that.
Yes.
And it's based off these forms. It's based off requirements like foster cares, homeless children, SNAP programs. And right now we just don't. Miss Deborah said we have not received that for the upcoming school year, but as of last year, we do not qualify for that.
Yes.
But we are constantly applying for it and seeing where we stand in that regard. Going back to the worker issue, she is seeing that in her cafeteria
Yes,
staff.
we are, most definitely. It's in our food service workers and our custodians as far as finding people who want to take those jobs.
And in return, that they're understaffed. Miss Deborah herself and her assistant are out in the schools constantly helping serve our students. But because of that, you know, there needs some extra assistance when it comes for little ones serving, and they're more than willing to help do that and be there for that. But there's some, she said yesterday, some schools only have 2 working
Yes.
in the lunchroom and in the cafeteria. So no one wants to work. That's just the world we live in right now. But
Yes.
we're in this together in
That's
every
right.
regard. Just so. And then she answered lots of questions about where they pick their food. I mean, she gave us some interesting facts that we won't share about other people or other industries' food choices, but the ones that she choose come straight from the list issued by the state, and she went through several. There was a concern, I think, about red dye. She had the list, and if you're interested in that list, she said to reach out to her. Red dye is not in any of our foods that they pick. In fact, she went through lots of things, and I was very impressed. So
I was too.
if you're interested in seeing that list, reach out to Miss Deborah Williams. All right, Dr. White, these next couple of questions I know can be a little confusing and understanding. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out myself, working in my role. But with the salary, this question is specifically asking about Bartow County and the property
Yes.
tax. And this says, you know, we feel as if property tax in Floyd County has gone up, so why can't our salaries go up? How does that work? How can Bartow County pay so much more? And then were we given a raise, and what are have you raised the pay step scale?
Let's start with the Bartow County property tax situation. And the example I normally use is if you go down 411 and you start looking at the residential areas and you look at the battery plant that's going up down there, which is huge, and you start looking at houses around that area, it has really grown over the last 2 or 3 years. They have Anheuser-Busch, they have other industry in Bartow County that we don't have. So the short version of this is that we levy, the school system can levy tax, we do, and it is property tax. Our millage rate is 17.141. Okay, so a mill in Bartow County will generate more money than a mill in Floyd County because of the industry and housing and those kind of things. We have rural areas in Floyd County that are farming areas, and pasture land does not generate the kind of money that residential areas or industry generates. So long story short, they generate more money from their property tax, which allows them to pay their teachers at a higher rate. Also, in addition to that, Bartow is next to Cobb. They are having to compete with Cobb County. So if you look at Bartow, Cobb, Fulton, Gwinnett,
Yeah.
they're all paying a higher salary than we are because they're competing with each other.
And that's getting into the city limits where even more industry is there,
Yes.
increasing their revenue from tax
So
dollars.
they have, just like Bartow County, when you get down into Fulton County and Cobb, they have more resources, they have more industry, more than Bartow County does. My point is this, they're able to generate more money than we can generate from our property tax, which allows them to pay their teachers more. Now, we have added step increases. This last year, we went from 8% to 8.5% for local supplement, in addition to the raise that came from the state, which was $2,500 for the certified staff. Also, we are giving our classified employees a 2% raise this year. But not only that, the insurance for classified employees is skyrocketing and will go to $21,000 by this time next year, where each individual classified person will have to pay that for their insurance. Now, we get reimbursement for certified. We don't get that reimbursement from the state for classified. So all those things factor in that, but I'm going to give you the short version. No pay raises are scheduled for FY26. next school year because we're looking at the increased cost for health insurance and the millage rate and all these things that factor in, unless the raises come from the state. If they do, that's great because we're going to pass them right along. But I do not foresee that for FY26.
And I think it's just important to remember ESSER or COVID funds are gone.
Yes, they
which
are.
was a huge help over the last couple of years. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, and you've mentioned several times, do we want to pay our teachers that? Absolutely. Yes. But we can't because of, we just can't. And it's really like a domino effect. Yes, Bartow's competing with Cobb and Cobb with Fulton, but Chattooga and Polk and the counties similar to our build, they're competing with us. And
they are, and we're paying more than they are.
Right.
So it's the same concept as far as, competing for teachers and those kind of things. I do think this, and of course I'm biased, I think Floyd County School System is better than any of those school systems, and we'll match up as far as CCRPI and those kind of things. So, but as far as the pay goes, yes, we want to be the top paying school system. That is not going to happen.
Right.
So if we have people, and I think teaching's more about, other things that are intrinsic in that profession that are rewarding. Do we have to make a living? Do we have bills we have to pay? Of course we do. But I just think the benefits of working in Floyd County School System outweigh going to Bartow. And I will compare with them on any kind of academic level they want to compare to. We will beat them. And that's, if they want to respond to that, they're most welcome to get back with it.
I saw that Alabama competitive spirit come out now. I can't say anything because you did in fact beat us. So anyways, thank you. But yeah, absolutely. And we've got a lot of great things going. It's just a different, there's no comparison when you look at Texas in that regard. And we're constantly looking at incentives in different ways when we can. We have a budget as a school system as well. And I know someone mentioned incentive bonus for those who stay with the school system. Guys, we're exploring all those options and we're exploring ways to continue to thank you and to give you. And Dr. White recently upped the step from like 23 years to 25 and 26 or up just last 2 years ago.
Yes.
So thank you for that. And I know you constantly worked in that and you're working with our area and what we have, and we appreciate that. The last thing I really want to talk about, and before we kind of transition to this, there was a question about GoFan. GoFan is what we use at sporting events, one act, I guess really all events.
Yes.
And that is a GHSA program.
Yes, GoFan, like right now, Coosa High will travel to Worth County, and the only way you're going to be able to get in that game is to be on GoFan and purchase your ticket through that. So once you're in the playoffs, it doesn't matter what sport it is, it's controlled by the Georgia High School Association, and you have to use GoFan. Now, during the regular season, could we use something else? We could, but our schools have been using GoFan, and I think the attitude from our schools are we're going to have to use it in playoffs anyway. Right. Let's just use it throughout the year, and then that way it won't be a big change when we get to the playoffs. So that's why we use that. I think as we go forward, you're going to see more and more of that kind of electronic transfer of money being used.
Well, in that regard, Mr. Crabb made a great point yesterday. It helps with our accounting procedures as well.
It does.
It's all in one place. You're not tracking receipts and money. So with just the way things are turning and, being supported by the GHSA, that's just the program that we have.
Yes.
The last conversation is safety and security. Dr. White, we've spent millions of dollars in that subject over the last few years. Even before the tragedy that took place back in September, we've put up fences and gates and updated our cameras, the RFID system, the badge system, the visitor management system, starting with some of the film. There's lots of upgrades that have taken place.
Yes,
and
that's true.
Different procedures, locking the doors has been a huge thing. But there have been some questions about the Centegix program that we're seeing, kind of become a trend with safety and security. But I also want to have you talk a little bit about what, as a school system, we're doing in advance to all of this.
Okay, so we, as a central office staff, on a daily basis, usually talk about some kind of school safety issue, whatever that might be. Looking at programs, we have talked with Centegix. Their sales rep has been in to see me. They have brought us a proposal for doing that throughout our 16 schools. Centegic is the panic alert, or whatever term you want to use, with a situation where you need emergency help. That would include an active shooter situation, which we hope we never have, or it could be some employee or a child having an emergency as far as a medical issue. It will work on all those kinds of situations. Okay, so their proposal was that to set it up inside our schools using their programs, it's $160,000. It's $10,000 per campus per year. After that, we have 16 campuses. So it's $160,000 a year after that. That being the case, and I've used this as an example, there's a limited amount of funds that we have. We have to pay for our SROs. We pay 75% of their salary. They are actually Floyd County Police Department employees, but we pay their salary while they're working for us. We're staffed at the highest rate we've ever been as far as SROs in the school system. We're also paying off-duty Floyd County Police Department personnel and sheriff's deputies to come into our schools. This is going on across the school system. We pay those off-duty police officers and sheriff's deputies $50 an hour. Here's where I'm going with that. There's only so much money that we have.
Right.
And so we can't buy every program that comes out. Now, I am looking to see what the legislature is going to do, because they may fund some sort of emergency alert program like that. And if they do, then we'll look at that one. There's probably others we can look at. So we'll consider those as we go forward. We're also looking at purchasing dogs who can detect weapons and drugs and vaping devices and all these kind of things. We've been in touch with Global K9, and we're seriously considering purchasing those dogs for next year. That is another monetary commitment that requires that whoever our SROs are have to go train with the dogs. This is not, let's go get a pet and take it home with us. These are dogs that are specifically trained for this, and they have to be trained and worked with every day. It's not just we get a dog, take it home with us, and then we bring him in and out. That's not the way this works. Anyway, we're looking at many safety options in our school system. My priority will be to fund SROs who are in the schools, off-duty police officers, because I feel like they are proactive.
Right.
This is the boots on the ground. This is people who have weapons who can engage someone who does have a weapon. I think that is our best defense against any kind of hostile attack. So that's what we're emphasizing, but we're looking at all different kinds of things.
And as far as drills and planning and preparing for active shooter situations, we do those twice a year in all of our schools.
Yes.
And it's very important that you take those seriously, educate your students, ask those questions. And then Rick Flanagan is working with his team and local law enforcement and a lot of our community members to continue district-wide reunification drills.
Yes.
We completed one last year at Pepperell High School, and he's planning one for this upcoming year at Almerchie, and he's going to continue that trend for all of us to practice the reunification should, in any situation, gas leak, active shooter, plane crash, whatnot.
Yes.
So
whatever it might be, to be prepared in case we have to evacuate a school.
Absolutely. And we'll end with this. I will tell you, I gave your School Teachers of the Year homework yesterday. There were there were a few other questions about the calendar. We planned that 2 years in advance last year with our calendar committee that was made up of our leadership team, so teachers from all grade levels and all areas, and then administrators that represented the scheduling part, the FTE side, and then just different things that you have to consider going into a school calendar. And so in addition to some questions given, everyone wants this day off or this day off and this day off. And bottom line is we can't please everyone, but we will definitely do what we can to make the calendar work while following the state requirements and following that 190-day contract for teachers and 176 to 180 for students. So you might be asked questions. I think you will, because I gave them all the requirements. I gave them a blank calendar. I postponed my calendar meeting for the 26-27 school year. Now, this calendar is actually favorable for a school planning day. Some calendars just aren't. They're hard to work around. But hopefully, y'all can work through some of those requirements and those challenges that we see when we're trying to propose 2 options for you all and give us something that we can share with everyone and get one voted on, and so we can stay 2 years ahead and plan for everything. So that's all, Dr. White, unless you have anything you want to say.
No, I do want to emphasize about the calendar. The calendar, for some reason, really causes stress. And here's the thing for me personally, and I'm giving you my perspective. I want us to go back to 180 days with kids, and as Ms. Welchel said earlier, we're at 176 right now. Actually, for this year, we're at 174 because we missed 2 days, which I'm still upset over because of the storm that didn't happen. But my point's this: I want our kids in school 180 days because I know our teachers are high-quality teachers that will teach our kids. Let's be honest, online learning, teaching, that's a waste of time. And so that goes out on the internet for me now. I'm sure I'll get some calls about that, but I don't think it's valuable at all. I want our kids in front of teachers, and I want our kids in school 180 days. The calendar is extremely stressful. Brooke has been exposed to some of that, but here's the bottom line. There's only so many days when you start the school year on a date, and usually that's in August, and then we want to end by the end of May. There's a limited number of days that you have there. Then you want a week for Thanksgiving, 2 weeks for Christmas.
Winter break.
A winter break and fall break and all that stuff. It's just hard to work that all in. So keep that in mind, and hopefully, maybe we'll get some suggestions.
Yeah,
we'll
that'd
look
be
at
great.
all that. Guys, I as far as me, as my own personal preference, it does not matter to me.
Right.
As long as the kids are in school. I'm good with whatever you want to do as long as the kids are in school. So I'd like to thank Brooke for coordinating this because it is stressful, and it seems like everyone has an opinion about that. So thank you so much for doing that.
You are welcome. Thank you, Dr. White. It's always a pleasure working with you, and thank you for all that you do for this school system, truly.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you all. We hope you have a great week and weekend and upcoming Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
Let's see it.